How much salary hike did you get when you moved from India to UK?
Depends really on what people's salary is going to be in India. So I wouldn't say it's a blanket, but for
How would your salary negotiation phase look like when you got an international offer?
I was surprised, in fact, that that I applied on LinkedIn and the HR actually reached back to me.
Yeah.
Um, though I think the other tools that I otherwise was using to apply to UK was through the referral route.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sugat, product manager at Meta, and I create content related to product management and interview experience. Folks who are here for the first time, don't forget to check some of my previous videos where I have shared bunch of interview experiences of companies like PayPal, Microsoft, Google. And in today's episode, we have Supriya, who has recently joined Bumble, London, as a senior product manager. Welcome, Supriya.
Hi, Sugat. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. How are you finding London so far?
London is awesome. I mean, people keep complaining about the grey weather, but honestly, I love it. Like, you have long days, you have great temperature, and yes, it's been great.
Super excited to have you in the channel today. We're gonna talk a lot today about knowing her entire experience, what made her move to UK, and product manager interviews, and how it's different from India and UK. Before starting, I would request everyone to please like, share, and subscribe this channel so that it reaches out to so many other folks and keep motivating me for creating such awesome more content. So let's get started. Supriya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Supriya. I was born and brought up in Delhi. So, um, I may not look it, but I am a Delhiite. A little bit about my, background. So, I am a computer science engineer from Manipal Institute of Technology, and I actually was a software engineer right after college for about 2 years at Microsoft. But then I sort of figured out that software engineering, though very interesting, wasn't really scratching the itch that I had in terms of what I wanted to do at work. So, and I used to work very closely with product managers at Microsoft, and I was like, I want to do that person's job. So, I actually pursued an MBA. After that, I went to Indian School of Business, and over there 1 year of MBA, and that's the door that opened for me in terms of product management. And I was a product manager since 2019 now, so it's been 4 years, and it's been great. I've had experience in ad tech companies as well as fintechs. I was at PayPal before I joined Bumble, and it's been great. Like, I love being a product manager. I love applying whatever I've learned in previous experiences to what I'm doing right now, so it's great.
Awesome. And folks, you might have heard Supriya was also in PayPal, and that's how we have interacted earlier and know her. She is an awesome PM and an awesome person as well. I'm really happy for her to accepting the invite to be here in the channel.
We actually joined about like a month apart, right, in PayPal.
Absolutely. Yes. And we went through that onboarding journey, a lot to share about
Remote
understanding.
onboarding.
Yes,
My God, what an experience that was.
COVID time
Yeah.
as well. Cool. So Supriya, what inspired you to move to UK?
So, for a long time, I have tried to look for opportunities to move abroad. So, it's not like it just happened. I'm one of those people who does actively plan what I want in my life and career, and like try to work towards that. So, I think the first time where I was trying to evaluate where to go abroad was probably for my MBA. And I actually had a thought, should I move to the UK or to the US? Um, Based on education, and might be easy to like convert in terms of a job. But then that did not happen. Then we had COVID. Once COVID started like reducing a bit in intensity, I noticed that a lot of people in my network were moving to Europe, London specifically. And so that's what actually inspired me to read more about life in London, I'm a huge traveler and foodie, and London's like a bustling city. It's multicultural. There's a lot to do. There, and then of course, you have the fact that you'll be close to Europe, so you get to travel all around Europe as well. And the visa policies were friendly.
Mhm.
So I think those all of those things combined became like a perfect case for me to apply actively, and that's how I chose UK, and that's why UK.
Awesome. And I know it might be too early to ask, but how are you finding working in London as like PM in India versus a PM in London thing?
I think it's really interesting. And like I said, it's a multicultural city. So, what's very different from India and London is in India. So, I was at PayPal. So, I was working predominantly with Indians and Americans. Over here, in my team alone, I have people from Turkey, Russia, India, and then you have of course people from London as well, and Americans. So if it's such a multicultural company, such a multicultural city, that the working styles, understanding everybody's different points of views and diverse points of views has been super interesting. Apart from that, working as a PM in London, I guess, is the commute. So, being from India, you're used to like a different sort of form of public transportation. And in
Yeah.
Bangalore, especially, and being in London, you're traveling by the tube, going to work every, couple of days. And now we live in a post COVID world,
Yeah.
which is like hybrid work. So sometimes you're working from home, but the other days you're going to office. So that's also pretty new and it's fun.
How about the work-life balance?
Oh yes, the work life. I'll be honest, PayPal had really awesome work life balance as
True.
well. But yeah, it's really great. Like I think more than the work life balance at work, the cool thing is how everybody around you has a good work life balance. So, you feel more motivated to go hang out at the pub after work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it opens up a lot of time to have hobbies and opens up a lot of opportunities to do more than work in your life. So that's really great.
Awesome. Before we jump into Supriya's journey about transitioning to UK, I think let's do a fun exercise. This is the rapid fire section where I gonna be asking a quick 5 question to Supriya and she gonna be sharing her candid responses. Supriya, are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not gonna be hard like an interview question, but a
Okay.
super fun one.
All right.
Cool. So first question, what is your favorite interview question?
My favorite interview question is actually from Microsoft, and it was, how would you design a product for the elderly? So it's vague, but it was a very fun interview question.
Awesome. Moving to the next question. How much salary hike did you get when you moved from India to UK?
Depends really on what people's salary is going to be in India. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a blanket, but I would say 2x is what I was looking for, and I think is what I ended up getting as well.
Nice. So when you talk about interview prep, which is your go-to website or go-to tool for doing the interview preparation?
My go-to tools are Exponent and Stellar Peers. So it's got great like mock interview questions and lets me practice the kind of thought process I want to apply to questions. So
Got it. What about the favorite thing you enjoy about being a PM?
the favorite thing about being a PM is actually getting to choose which problem you want to solve. I think that's pretty cool, and how to solve the problem. So I like that the
Awesome.
most.
And if not a PM, what would be your ideal career path?
So if honestly, like if lots of other things were different, I would want to be an astronaut working for NASA. Like that was my childhood dream. I actually was in the US for a couple of years when
Wow.
I was a kid. And so like that was my childhood dream working as an astronaut in the US.
Nice. Cool. So that was the fun part. We got to know Supriya a bit more about her journey. Now let's understand her entire phase of, getting into Bumble London. Supriya, would love to hear, how you got that call or how do you reach out to what were the different round interview question in as much detail as possible.
Okay, sure. So I mean, there's a lot of luck involved. So I would not say that if you do exactly what I did, you're for sure gonna get some recruiter to reach out. But I think for me, I actually reached out on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and I was surprised, in fact, that that I applied on LinkedIn and the HR actually reached back to me.
Yeah.
Um, Though I think the other tools that I otherwise was using to apply to UK was through the referral route. So
Hmm.
connecting with people in London working for these jobs, and then sending them my resume, telling them why my work experience is relevant to these roles. That really worked in terms of getting interviewers to reach out. I think relevance is the key. Something I realized that works, something you can actually have in your control. So applying for roles that are relevant to you and explaining that to the recruiters and to your connections to put the word across. So that's how it happened. The HR reached out to me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and I think there was a quick screening round initially where they want to understand, what's your work experience been like, whether you're sort of meeting the job requirements for this particular role, whether you meet other job requirements in other roles
Yeah.
for the company. So that was a quick screening round. After that, essentially, what Bumble did was hand me over to someone who sort of arranged the interviews themselves. And they actually shared a lot of resources about what the process was going to be, the how many rounds there would be. There was a little bit of like guidelines on how to answer questions, how to prep for the questions, which was really great to have. And
Hmm.
I think most of the bigger companies are doing that now as
Yeah.
well, sharing interview resources and sharing their expectations so that you don't get thrown off guard.
True.
Yeah. So for me, my first round was with a hiring manager, and they essentially wanted to know more about what I've done at PayPal, what's the impact that I had, what was my day to day looking like, those kind of things. And then, of course, I guess they did want to see whether what I was doing and would be relevant to that person's team, so the
Yeah.
hiring manager's team. That went for about 30 minutes. I think
Hmm.
that was a 30-minute round. The interview after that was called the Product Sense and Analytical round, which was 75 minutes. It was,
Wow.
yeah, that was the time blocked on the calendar.
Wow.
So it was a 1 hour interview followed by 15 minutes of questions. And they did follow that time as well.
Hmm.
And in that round, again, it was a product director who interviewed me. And again, we really just dove into, my previous work experience. There was a lot of soft skill questions asked, which is something I noticed is different between Indian rounds of interviews as well as in London, or UK rather, which is they're not just looking for, your tactical skills. And I think it could also be a factor that, now I'm not a new PM
Hmm.
and I have some experience. So maybe the way they would interview, junior PM versus a senior
Yeah.
PM is different because now, testing on basic skills like, your ability to understand metrics or your ability to break down a problem and, think about the customer, it's like taken for granted because you've been a PM
Correct.
for 3 years. You probably know
Yeah.
that already. So they really try to go into understanding how you did solve the problems that you had in your previous job and whether that's the kind of approach they're looking for now.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of soft skill questions. You have questions like, what were some of the challenges that you faced in your previous role? And what if you're working with an engineering manager who doesn't agree with your
Correct.
product idea? Like, how would you convince them? Or how would you convince leadership that what you're trying to do needs to be done?
Hmm.
So there was a lot of those kind of situational questions. And they're looking for examples of how you've done it in the past, um, to sort of support how you do it or how you
Got
answer
it.
the question. So it's pretty like really makes you remember and like put into perspective everything you've done, all the good and bad. It really does add value if you can present it and show that you learned from your mistakes and understand that there's so much that you can do with all your experiences, and
Correct.
people are happy to see that diverse point of view as well. So that was the second round with the analytical sense. I think we went into the product that I was actually building
Mm-hmm.
at PayPal, and why I chose to solve that problem.
Got it.
How would I be measuring it? How I went ahead and figured out, to test whether what solution I was working on is the right solution or not,
Yep.
and who I worked with. In fact, we even went into that level of detail, like how did it go into execution? How did I plan the rollout in the market? And at each point there's questions like why not this? Why not this?
Correct.
Right? So that was, yeah, that was really great and something new to me as well because I had not done an interview like that. The third round that I had was with a cross-functional, it's called a cross-functional round. So I
Mm-hmm.
think someone from the engineering leads, they took my interview because they're essentially who you deal with on a
Correct.
day-to-day.
Yeah.
So they wanted to know more about like how would you work with engineers? How would you look at tech debt versus
Correct. Yeah.
product requirements, right? Like, and what if how would you deal with feedback from engineers? How
Hmm.
much do you involve engineers in your day to day? How comfortable are you with discussing technical aspects of a project? So they really just wanted to see whether they could work with me, and that was what they were looking for, which is great because like engineering is the bread and butter of any company, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
need to be able to work with them and they have to like you, you have to like them.
True.
So that was the third round. The rounds after that were essentially need basis. So I had one more round with the product director to see which team would be a better fit for me.
Okay.
And so it was more of a conversation about what the team's expectations are and whether I'm looking for that or not. It
Mm-hmm.
was not like questions being asked. There were some soft skill aspects they wanted to know as well. Yeah, but that was my four rounds, and then I had optional rounds, which is I wanted to schedule further catch-ups with the
Okay.
engineering
Yeah.
managers to see like what is the problem that they're working on and which team would I want to join. So overall, I had I think seven conversations, of which four were interviews, and three of them were like more getting to know where I want to join. Yeah.
So there was no uh, case study sort of things, the no product design, that kind of interviews at all while you were applying.
Yeah, and that's what's funny, right? Because I used to get ready with my, like this is my interview prep technique. Like I would have my cheat sheet in front
Yeah.
of me, which tells me like, don't forget to ask these questions. And I had it in front of me for each interview, and I would walk away thinking, oh, I didn't use my cheat sheet, right? So uh, they really just phrased all of the product questions in a very smart way, where they
Yeah.
were just trying to ask those questions to my own work and
Yeah.
not like out of the blue.
Correct.
So it was, and like you really had to give a lot of data driven answers as a result of it, right? Because now you can't make an excuse that I'm not sure about the industry, so I'm making this assumption. Rather, you have to say what you did or like what you would do if you were to improve it further, right? So
Incredible, and really enjoyed the interview format of Bumble. So how long was the entire duration it took from you getting that call to handing the offer letter?
okay, so mine actually was quite long. If I think back, it was well, I started. I think my recruiter call
Mm-hmm.
happened in July,
Wow.
and I got my offer in October, like the first week of October.
Okay.
So 3 to 4 months was like the overall process, and I think there were like gaps of interview, like rescheduling.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's why there was some delay, but they were pretty good at communicating that much before time, like if there's a reschedule that needs to happen, and you would get to say like these are the time slots I'm available in,
Yeah.
and then they would schedule it in one of those available slots.
Got it. So how did you feel when you got that offer? The kind of excitement or achievement or like
Honestly, it was too good to be true. I was just like, that was the first company I actually started
Wow.
interviewing for in London, and I joined that company. So, I mean, I did interview for other companies as well, but I finally went with the first one that I had converted. So,
Awesome. I often hear this question from a lot of folks about the salary negotiation part,
hmm
and I thought I will just check with you that how would your salary negotiation phase look like when you got an international offer,
yeah.
and yeah, what are your thoughts?
It's a really good question, and it's really hard to negotiate, I'll be honest, because in India it's like if you have a counter offer,
Yeah.
that's how you negotiate. Like
Yep.
there's nothing else you can really say to convince people beyond like telling them maybe I won't accept your offer, which
Correct.
is not nice, but that's what it was for me. Um for Bumble, essentially the negotiation tactics that I used was sharing, if I were to move from India to London,
Mm-hmm.
what my costs would be in
Sure.
terms of
Yep.
switching cost from PayPal, the stock options that I would have vested, or the bonus that I would be getting, and not getting rather if
Yeah.
I were to
Yeah.
move. So that really helped in terms of getting a little bit of an increase in the initial offer. It was also, I think, the fact that I had RSUs at PayPal again helped me get more RSUs at Bumble. And then, of course, like things are pretty transparent. So there is a salary range that
Correct.
the
Yep.
HR tells you in the very beginning. They say that depending on your performance and the range that they have, that's how your salary is going to be decided. So if you've landed yourself in the middle of the bracket, you already know it's because of your interview performance, and they are,
Mm,
because like senior PM is actually a really big bracket. You
correct.
can be just barely a senior PM or like close to moving to director.
Yeah.
So, depending on your skill level, you can't really argue that because that's perception. But the wiggle room is more like I have these costs associated, and I'll be
Yeah.
moving, and I have perhaps loans or something which you can share very candidly,
Yep.
and that could be the way to do it. But I'll be honest, there wasn't much wiggle room, and the range is pretty transparently told to you. So, like,
Correct.
after you reach a certain amount, you're like, now I can't really ask them for more
Yeah.
because they told me upfront that this is what the range is.
Correct. No, thanks a lot for sharing this insights. I think one of the most important thing is this companies. Some of the companies I've seen in London, like Monzo, Revolut, they are pretty explicit in providing that range from X to Y,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that idea of your earning potential in that things. And yeah, I think the best thing is give your best in the interview, and then
Yeah.
maybe towards the end you have that leverage to ask more and
Yeah.
negotiate.
Yeah. And I think asking upfront with the HR as well, right? Like it's a question they're ready to answer.
Uh,
When you are having your discussions with them, just ask them what is the salary range for the role that I will be interviewing for. And this is before they've seen anything about you, right? So you'll know upfront whether that's a salary range you're willing to accept or not. And then even they would appreciate that you tell them, no, this is too low for me, and therefore save their time, right? So
Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing to do right in the beginning.
So, what did you observe the difference while interviewing at India versus interviewing at UK or London? Like,
Yeah, so I think that was the biggest, for me, the biggest difference, as I had even called out a little bit before, is there was a lot of focus on soft skills
hmm,
and my past experience and how I've dealt with situations before. And they really value the way you handle things, because I think, and this is just me speculating on why it's valuable to them, is that it is a multicultural city and there are multicultural teams and they
yeah,
value diverse opinions. So I think when they hear how you deal with situations, that's something that you maybe can't change very easily. But when you think about like hard skills, like do you know these kind of metrics, or do you
hmm,
know this kind of format of writing a PRD, like those things can be learned.
correct.
So I think they're looking for like um, a, a cultural match to their company, and that's very important to them, because this was my experience with three of the companies that I interviewed with. There
Hmm.
was a heavy focus on soft skills, asking questions like, what was one of your biggest, and not achievements, but the opposite of achievements? What was your biggest failure
Failure.
in your past experience? And you don't have that ready at hand to
Yeah.
think about, right? So, how do you answer the biggest failure questions in a way that they like you?
Correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the big difference between UK and India for me for interviews.
One thing which I also noticed was the number of rounds. Maybe in India, I've seen a minimum, an average of 5 rounds happening for
Hmm.
any PM interviews, while at London it's more less than five actually, or in some of the companies it's actually 2 to 3 rounds and you're done. You receive an offer. So maybe that could be another difference when you're interviewing at London or India.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's also more flexible in UK. Like
Yeah.
I've noticed sometimes 3 but sometimes 6 rounds, versus in India it's usually a standard format, like everyone is going to go through 4 to 5 rounds.
Minimum.
Where and so here it's like, do we really need to keep
Yeah.
interviewing them 3 times if we
Correct.
like them? And they actually choose to save both the candidate as well as their own time. So that's why there's a lot of rounds in their documentation as well, which say on a need basis, or
Yeah.
like um, a specific expert would take that need basis round. So it's not necessary that it would be a product round.
Hmm.
Could be that there's another engineering manager or
Yeah.
design manager who takes that other round. So, that was my experience even at the other companies that I interviewed for.
Awesome. So, a lot of folks has been reaching me out asking about how can I move or find a role in UK,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure you must be also receiving the same kind of message.
Yeah.
So let's address this to the viewers or audience that today in 2023, if they want to move to UK or London, what can they do?
Hmm. Yeah, I wish it was easy, right? Like it's a lot of luck, and I mean, but there is a bit that you can control,
Yeah,
and what you can control is by finding out which are the companies that are sponsoring visas.
absolutely.
That's one way.
Yeah,
But a great alternative is actually to find a way to get a visa without being tied to a company. So there's a tier one visa that exists in the UK, which is for entrepreneurs, where you
hmm,
can actually come here, apply for the visa on your own, and then you can come here and look for a job, not requiring sponsorship from companies. Or
interesting.
they have the young professional visa, which is again for professionals under the age of 30. They are submitted into a ballot and they get the right to work in the UK as well.
Correct.
So, if you're able to get the sponsorship without requiring the company to sponsor, your chances of actually getting interviews will increase for sure. But if you're requiring that sponsorship, then you really need to go for relevance.
Yeah,
Like if you are working in a fintech company, applying to fintech companies in the UK and for roles that have done similar things as what you've done is your best bet. And because they are going to have 10 other people applying for the role with the visa
yes,
or the right to work in that company, why would they choose to interview and sponsor you if they have 10 other candidates, right? So that's really your best bet. So really seek out, read those job descriptions, see what the company is doing, and find a way to sell that you are the most relevant candidate.
perfect. Thanks a lot. I think this is a very interesting topic which Supriya brought it up about the global talent visa. Folks, please comment below if you want to know more about this kind of visa. I would be happy to bring someone in the channel and share his or her journey about getting that global talent visa. And yeah, it was really fun and getting to know these things. Before winding up the today's video, is there anything which you want to share to the wider audience?
I would say keep watching Sugat's videos. But no, seriously, I think I'm really glad you've invited me here, because it's always been something I wanted to do. I want to give give back to the community and help in any way I can. But like time is of the
Yeah.
essence. So, how do you do it in a scalable way? And so, thank you for giving me the platform to share my learnings and my experience in a way that it may help people. I hope it does.
So, thank you again, Supriya, for being part of the channel. So, folks, this was Supriya sharing her entire journey from moving from India to London, cracking the PM interview, a lot of tips about the salary negotiation and the sponsorship. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and share it among your friends and peers. And stay tuned for upcoming more videos. Thank you, Supriya. Thank you, folks.
Bye, guys.